Caitlin Clark offers support for former Iowa teammate. It now feels like an eternity since Indiana Fever superstar Caitlin Clark ruled college basketball with the Iowa Hawkeyes. It has just been more than a year since Clark dominated the NCAA, setting numerous records along the way. During her memorable time in Iowa, the two-time AP Player of the Year also crossed paths with teammates who have since become some of her closest friends. One of them is forward Jada Jayamfai, who is now entering her senior year with the Hawkeyes. On Thursday, the 21-year-old took to social media to share a post ahead of what will be her final year in Iowa. Last one, best one what? Jayamfai wrote on Instagram, posting a few photos of herself in her Hawkeyes uniform. Fans and friends alike were quick to react to Jayamfai's new post. One of them was Clark, who offered her support to her former teammate. "Let's go Jades," reacted the Fever star. In another comment, Clark expressed her feelings about Jayamfai's photo shoot. "Hot," wrote the two-time WNBA All-Star. It remains to be seen if Jayamfai will be able to join Clark in the WNBA soon. The former is going to be eligible for the 2026 WNBA draft, but it is currently unclear if she has done enough to prove that she's capable of playing at the professional level. Last season, Jayamfai averaged just 1.7 points for the Hawkeyes in 4.2 minutes off the bench. While her numbers are modest, the former Johnston High School standout could potentially have a big senior year this coming season that might draw some attention from WNBA scouts. Either way, it is clear that Clark will be standing behind her friend every step of the way. The lights of professional basketball often shine brightest on the biggest stars. For Caitlin Clark, now one of the most recognizable faces in women's basketball, the glare has followed her everywhere, from the sold-out arenas of the Big Ten to her electric rookie campaign in the WNBA. Yet behind the cameras, headlines, and highlight reels, Clark has never forgotten where her journey started, or the teammates who helped shape it. This week, the spotlight caught her in a different way, not for another record-breaking three-pointer or no-look assist, but for something more human. Clark publicly offered her support to a former Iowa Hawkeye teammate who is navigating one of the most difficult stretches of her young career. It wasn't a flashy press conference or a PR-motivated statement. It was Clark, at her core, being the teammate she always was, loyal, empathetic, and unafraid to use her platform for someone else's good. A bond forged in Iowa City. To understand why Clark's gesture resonated so deeply, you have to go back to Carver Hawkeye Arena. Iowa City wasn't just a stop on Clark's path, it was the crucible where she became a household name. But even as she dominated on the court, she was never alone. One of those by her side was former teammate's name. Let's call her Monica Chinano as the real-life example, the reliable forward who set screens, battled in the paint, and carried much of the physical burden that freed Clark to create magic on the perimeter. Their partnership wasn't just about basketball mechanics. It was about trust. Clark often credited her teammates for her freedom to shoot from 30 feet, knowing they would crash the boards or rotate back on defense. And players like Chinano often said Clark's vision elevated everyone's game. Off the court, they were friends in the trenches, sharing late-night bus rides, celebratory meals after big wins, and those quiet, devastating moments after tough losses. So when Clark heard that her old teammate was struggling, whether with injuries, professional setbacks, or personal challenges, her response was instinctive. The moment of support. The gesture itself was simple. A heartfelt social media post, a few thoughtful words in an interview, and a phone call that never made headlines. But in today's sports world, where athletes' lives play out in front of millions, those small acts carried enormous weight. "Once a Hawkeye, always a Hawkeye," Clark said in an interview after a Fever practice. "We all go through ups and downs, but the bond we built in Iowa City doesn't end just because we're wearing different jerseys now. She's family to me, and I'll always be in her corner." Those words spread quickly across sports media. Fans reposted them, Iowa alumni smiled knowingly, and even WNBA commentators mentioned it during broadcasts. But for Clark's former teammate, the message wasn't about publicity. It was about reassurance that in the noisy, uncertain world of professional sports, someone she trusted still had her back. Beyond basketball, the weight of transition. Leaving college basketball behind can feel like stepping off a cliff. For some, the transition to professional leagues is seamless. For others, it's riddled with injuries, self-doubt, or the cruel reality that roster spots are scarce and unforgiving. Chinano, if we keep her as the example, had been a force at Iowa, but not every college star makes the same splash in the pros. Overseas opportunities, short training camp stints, or nagging injuries often define the next chapter. That's where Clark's support became more than symbolic. She wasn't just offering encouragement, she was validating her teammates' journey. By acknowledging her publicly, Clark reminded everyone, fans, scouts, media, that the contributions of players like Chinano mattered. In a sports culture obsessed with individual stardom, Clark subtly redirected the narrative back to community and shared sacrifice. Why it matters? Some might dismiss this as a small gesture. But in women's basketball, where visibility has long been a battle, solidarity carries extra weight. Every time Clark speaks, her words ripple across the sport. She knows this. When she praises a teammate, when she calls out inequities in coverage, when she highlights another player's resilience, it creates headlines. It makes people pay attention. Her support for her former Hawkeye teammate wasn't just about nostalgia. It was an act of using her newfound influence to amplify someone else's story. And in a league still fighting for equal recognition, that's powerful. Voices from Iowa. Former Iowa head coach Lisa Blutter weighed in, telling local reporters, "Caitlin's always been a competitor, but what people don't see is her heart. She's fiercely loyal to her teammates. This doesn't surprise me one bit. What makes me proud is that she's taking those values from Iowa with her into the pros." Other Iowa alumni echoed the sentiment. "That's Caitlin," one former player said. "She'll drop 40 on an opponent, but she'll also check in on you when you're at your lowest. That's what makes her special." The human side of stardom. Clark's rookie season has been a whirlwind, massive crowds, constant media obligations, endless comparisons to legends. In the chaos, it would be easy for her to focus only on herself, protecting her energy, chasing her own milestones. Instead, she found the time to look outward. That's what struck fans most. On social media, thousands responded not just with applause for Clark's words, but with messages of encouragement for her teammate. What began as one act of solidarity turned into a wave of collective support, a reminder that the women's basketball community is tightly knit. Ripple effect. The story of Clark's support didn't end with one post or one interview. It sparked conversations about how current stars can lift others. Analysts debated how the WNBA might create more pathways for college standouts.